What is up, you guys? We are back with yet another amazing movie. And today's movie starts with a mother and daughter duo, Niska and Wasisi, and yes, that is their names, and they're walking through the woods in search of food. Wasisi sees a bird, but instead of killing it and eating it with her mom, she talks to the bird and the bird just flies away. They then kept walking through the woods in search of more birds or any animal that they can hunt, but Wasisi accidentally steps on a bear trap. Her mother helps her with the trap and she carries her back to their home, or should I say, trailer. And in their trailer, her mother didn't really have any medication, and Wasisi was already getting a fever because her feet was getting infected. And even before Wasisi could spend the night sleeping in her trailer, all of a sudden they hear something that sounds really familiar. Niska walks out with her rifle, and it was apparently some kind of drone. And she manages to shoot it down, but then she rushes back to the trailer, and she tells Wasisi that they need to leave, and they burn down the trailer before leaving. And even though Wasisi's leg is injured and she's infected, they walk on foot for a while. But when they get to the city, we witness that it's almost completely destroyed, almost as if it was destroyed and abandoned on purpose. After they get there, we also see Niska trying to hide Wasisi because she for some reason didn't want anybody knowing that she was traveling with a child. But as they walk through a ghost town, we hear some kind of PA system announcing how it's illegal to have minors. But Niska wasn't the only one in town who had a child, as they meet a middle-aged man who also had his son with him. The next morning, after Wasisi and Niska spend the night in some abandoned house, Wasisi goes out of the house in the morning as her mom was asleep, and the old man's kid takes her to this drone that was shot down ages ago. Wasisi was scared to get close to the drone as she's never really seen a drone up close, but the other kid tells her that it's been shot down ages ago and that it's not functional anymore, but she tells him that the drone is breathing. And in that instant, the drone lights up and starts moving, and cops show up out of nowhere, but Wasisi quickly hides inside a garage, but the cops catch the old man and his kid because his kid was only 15 years old. Seeing this, Niska realizes that she can't stay here anymore with her daughter, and they keep moving. They go to Niska's old friend Roberta, who's helped her in the past before, and once they get there, we notice how Roberta has gone a little crazy after the military took away her son to the academy, and as their conversation goes on, we learn that there was a war that almost destroyed everything and killed everyone, and they also talk about a place called Emerson. Apparently Roberta and Niska were on the opposite side of this Emerson group, and since they've lost the war, now they're living under their administration. Niska asks Roberta about getting medication for Wasisi, but Roberta tells her that that's gonna be impossible since now all the clinics have guards and checkpoints, and since they're no longer citizens, they can't really acquire any medication. In the morning, Wasisi was very sick, and a bunch of guards from the academy were there to check for minors, and Niska tried to carry her and escape, but they were everywhere, and so she did the only thing she could do. Pretending not to be Wasisi's mother, she passed by the guards and told them that there was a minor inside Roberta's house because she knew that the academy had the medication that Wasisi needed. And it's now been 10 months later, and Niska is living alone in some abandoned building. She still misses her daughter very much, but at this point, she realizes that there's not much she could do. And speaking of her daughter Wasisi, she's now joined the academy and she's being trained to join their military. From this scene, we understand that this Emerson group are a bunch of colonizers, and they've taken over their land and are now integrating the citizens into their own culture and tradition. On our next scene, we see Niska with Randy. Apparently, he's a new friend that she made, and he told her before that he had this big surprise to show her, and he invited her to this place. And when she went over there, he secretly tells her that he'd spoke to some guy that got him his citizenship. Niska doesn't really believe him because it's almost impossible to get citizenship there unless you're a child who's been integrated into the Emerson program. And if Randy is not lying and he's actually telling the truth, this will actually mean that Niska can get to see her daughter again. And even though she's skeptical, Niska wants to believe Randy because she no longer has power to do anything to see her daughter again, and Randy has now given her a glimmer of hope. At night, as she was sleeping near the academy where her daughter was being held and brainwashed, she notices some stray horse in the middle of the field. She then goes to it and tries to calm it down, and she notices a group of other horses nearby. And when she gets close to the group of horses, she sees some guy with a computer sitting under a tree giving instructions to a bunch of people. And when she turns around, she notices a bunch of adults smuggling children from the academy. She tries to fight them, thinking that they're going to do something bad to the children, but they overpower her and take her with them. They question her as to who she is and where she's from, and they're also speaking a very strange language, but Niska recognizes it as she is part of the same tribe. These people that took the children and took her as well are the Cree people, and even though Niska doesn't speak the language well, she's still one of them. Their leader, Ida, questions her and is very curious about Niska. And after she asks her a bunch of questions, she gets her escorted out of the tent, and she refers to her as Ogan Wichgiwen. And she tells the rest of the people that they may have found what they were looking for and that their search might be over. That very same night, as the tribe gather around a fire, telling stories, their elder, Chachigi, is woken up so she can take a look at Niska. After seeing her up close, she tells her that she's the one that they've been looking for and that she's the Ogan Wichgiwen. That word, Ogan Wichgiwen, translates to guardian, and the elder explains to Niska that long ago that they've been told that somebody might come from the north and save them from their oppressors and colonizers so that they may once again live free on their own land just as their ancestors did. This tribe, the Cree, referred to these soldiers and military people from Emerson as Jangos. And in the morning, the tribe's leader, Ida, tells Niska that they need her to do something. And in order to get her to cooperate, they tell her that they can sneak her daughter out of the academy, and all she has to do in return is take all the smuggled children that they have to a place called Big Stone up north. But Niska is resistant to go up north because she doesn't believe that this Big Stone place exists, and she thinks that it's just some kind of myth. She also doesn't just want to take her daughter from the academy, as she left her there because the academy can provide for her daughter when she didn't even have food to feed her. But Ida and Leo tell her that she needs to get her daughter out of the academy fast before the academy assimilates, indoctrinates, and re-educates her to a point where Wasisi forgets who she is. But hearing this didn't really change Niska's mind, and she leaves the Cree to deal with their own problems. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Wasisi tries to make a run for it, but she gets caught. And her mother Niska, who's completely unaware of what's going on and just trying to forget and move on with her life, notices how her entire neighborhood has completely died off because of this virus. But before she could stay and mourn the death of her neighbors, Randy was there and tells her that he's got everything together and that they can leave this place before all the borders close. As they were making their way, they meet Roberta and decide to take her with them, but they get caught by the Jangos who make them board a bus. But before the bus started moving, Randy already had a plan to throw a smoke grenade and escape through the back. The plan was a good one and it would have worked, but Roberta notices her son Pierre from the window. She gets up and tells the Jangos that she needs to go see her son, but they aim their weapon at her and tell her to sit down, and Niska calms her down, and as soon as they take a seat, Randy throws the smoke grenade and runs to the back, but Roberta runs to the front and tries to see her son Pierre, and as the Jangos were about to shoot her, Niska comes to her rescue. Randy comes back to help Niska and he takes out one of the Jangos, then they all leave the bus and Roberta tries to talk to her son Pierre. But apparently, just as Ida and Leo told Niska a couple days ago, the indoctrination at the academy was so strong that Pierre was completely brainwashed, and when he saw his mom, he just saw a freeloader who was dirty and gross, and he ended up shooting and killing her. Pierre was also about to shoot Niska, but Leo was following her and manages to shoot him before he shoots her. Randy also got shot in the process, and after things calmed down, he asks Niska to come with him so they can escape, but Niska has made up her mind and now she wants to go to Leo to attempt to save her daughter Wasisi from being brainwashed just like Pierre was. At the academy, Wasisi, who now goes by Elizabeth, is shown a video of how her mother abandoned her to the Jangos. The handler who shows her this video has figured out that Wasisi is very talented and tries to brainwash her into committing to the Emerson group. And after showing her the video and telling her that her own mother abandoned her, Wasisi becomes incredibly frustrated and she ends up beating up one of the kids at the academy. But thankfully for Wasisi, her mother has now rejoined the Cree and they plan to break her out that night. The Cree manage to get inside the academy after hacking their system, and they also manage to take more kids along with Wasisi. But they get found out and an alarm goes off, plus the academy figures out where the tribe is hiding and they head over there to subdue them. Once the Jangos get there with their weapons, Leo, Wasisi, and Niska have also made it to the Cree's camp. The Jangos asked the Cree to surrender, but the Cree were ready to fight to the last man. But before any fight ensues, Wasisi can hear something coming from afar. and when they look up, it was hundreds of drones that were sent to back up the Jangos. The Cree, seeing how outnumbered and outgunned they are, didn't even flinch a bit, as they were ready to die for what they believed in and their way of life. But suddenly, an incredible thing happens as Wasisi stretches out her hands and she somehow spiritually communicates with the drones and orders them to come to her side. The Jangos, fearing of being attacked by their own drones, all retreat, except for one who sneaks around and shoots Niska in the shoulder while he was aiming for Wasisi. It's here that we understand that Niska was indeed the Ogan Witchguen, the guardian to her daughter, who was to save her people and lead them to salvation. And that is how our movie comes to an end. And if I butchered the Native American words, I'm so sorry. I'm really new to the Native American language. I hope you guys enjoyed this recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel. Anyways, I love you all and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye.